Yo, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to go over a very exciting game I recently played against E.Honda, who is the number 3 in the world when I played him. Since then, I guess he's dropped a little bit, but still definitely a really skilled player, and he definitely taught me a thing or two during this game. If you enjoy, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, or you will ignore all the future plus actions you get on your turns. And so, let's take a look at this kingdom. So, it looks like we've got a pretty feasible engine here. We've got both Hostelry and Storyteller for draw. We've got Groom for gaining, which is actually going to be very nice because there's a lot of different cards on this board that are costing 4 or less that we're going to want. We've got the Knights, and so that's going to be pretty good for attacking your opponent. You can even play Overlord as a Knight in order to attack the opponent without getting one of your own Knights trashed. You've got Way of the Turtle and Hostelry, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities to set up for a future turn if you have a lot of overdraw. So you could play this like a single province engine. You could build up a province, and then you could play Way of the Turtle in order to keep on being able to hit province. You've got Groom, which is actually going to be super important because you can get a lot of Grooms and threaten to run down the estates. You can also gain Hostelry with Groom, which is really good. And so we've only got weak trashing here with Stonemason, so maybe this isn't going to be a complete deck control kind of game. You probably aren't going to ever get full deck control. Right here you definitely want to open with a Groom just because it's a good investment to start gaining other cards quickly. Maybe a Wishing Well also to cycle your Groom. So in the actual game, I get 2/5, so that's a pretty easy supplies for me. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get with 5 yet. I could get Groom. I could also get Overlord just for the flexibility, because I'd probably want to play it as Groom anyway. He gets the 3/4, so he's going to start with a Wishing Well. With 5, I decided to get an Overlord, reason being that it's going to be more flexible. I could also play it as a Knight later. It does give me the extra debt, though, which is kind of annoying. It's possible that a Groom would have been better there, but anyway, I do decide to open with an Overlord. And of course, he gets a Groom, which is pretty reasonable. Unfortunately, on turn 3, I do get only 2 coppers, which kind of sucks, but at least my Overlord doesn't miss. Here, he's not going to get his Groom quite yet, but he gets another Groom, which is definitely good. So here, I'm going to play my Overlord as a Groom, because I really want an actual Groom. So I'm going to game 1. I'm also going to get a Wishing Well for cycling, just like he did on his first turn. So here, on turn 4, he gets the Hostelry, which definitely makes sense because he already had 2 Grooms. He's also going to be able to get 2 horses, which is going to be really strong cycling. I learned this game that the gaining Hostelry and discarding for horses is actually really strong, not to be underestimated. So here, I play my Overlord as a Storyteller without thinking. That definitely should have been a Seller. That just would have drawn me an extra card, but I'm sometimes just an idiot. Don't mind me. And so here with 3, I'm just going to get another Wishing Well. So here, Honda is going to get another Hostelry, discarding for more horses. At this point, he's going to be cycling really quickly, and drawing coppers is going to help him do it again. I do decide to trigger this shuffle, which may have been a mistake, but I figure I have enough cards that it's not really a big deal, and also I'll be able to discard for some horses this turn. I decide that I want to be ahead on Grooms. My Overlord's basically a Groom, so I decide to get another one, just so I have more pile control than him. And so, but with 4, I do decide that I'll get a Hostelry for the village support, so I can actually play all my Grooms. So he tucks away a Wishing Well with Way of the Turtle. I guess he didn't want to trigger that shuffle, but anyway, he'll get another Groom. We're both pretty much competing for pile control at this point. So here I'm actually going to be smart and play that as a Seller, or at least smarter than last time. I do get lucky here. I draw my Hostelry with my 2 Grooms, and I'm able to play them both. I'm guessing, see, we want to keep a balance between Grooms and Hostelries so that we can draw our deck and also play Grooms. And so I'm going to get 1 Hostelry, discarding for 4 horses, which is a lot of horses. And then get another Groom with my other Groom. Yeah. So Honda's going to get his Wishing Well saved up. So this is going to be a pretty big turn for him. He's going to start drawing his deck with all those horses, and then be able to play Groom to get another Hostelry to repeat the process. At this point, he needs to be careful not to trigger a bad shuffle, but he's a pretty pro player, so I don't think he's going to make that mistake. So he doesn't actually get another Groom this turn, which maybe he should have, just because he has the Hostelry support. And so here my Grooms do collide, which is a little unfortunate. So maybe I could get a Hostelry just to get some more horses and also make sure that my Grooms don't collide again, or at least make it less likely I play the supplies just so that I get the horse on top of my deck instead of in my discards. So this is looking like a pretty good turn for me. he lined up his hostelry with his groom, but then he doesn't have the horses. So he's got a pretty unfortunate shuffle there. He doesn't actually get to kick off. So I'm just going to draw my deck here with all my horses. And unfortunately, I won't have them for next time, so I'm going to have to do this again. But I've got my Overlord and my 3 grooms in hand, so I'm in a pretty good position. I could have just taken all the grooms here, and in retrospect, maybe I should have, just because this would have kind of shut him out. But another interesting prospect is to empty the hostelries, just to make it so that he can't gain any more horses. So I could just take the last 2 hostelries and a bunch of horses, and then kind of leave him in an awkward spot after he draws his deck one more time and then can't anymore. So here I've got 3 horses, 3 coppers in my discards, and I really don't want to trigger Bad Shuffle, so I wish for copper, and fortunately I do find it. So here I get a silver for the money, probably a mistake. Maybe it should have been another groom or hostelry, as I was saying. Here's the thing, if I either empty the grooms or the hostelries at this point, I basically win the game. If I empty the hostelries, he can't draw his deck again. If I empty the grooms, I can go for estates, but I don't do either. And so here I should probably empty the hostelries, but I don't. I get Dame Josephine for God knows why. But I think I wanted the top knight to be something better, but the thing is he's just going to be able to take the top knight. So definitely a mistake by me. I leave Anna on top, which is, like, even worse. But, I mean, I guess fortunately the trashing isn't really going to come in too handy, because the piles are actually quite low right now, if you count the estates as a pile, because Groom can just run down the estate super fast. Anyway, Honda is going to run through his deck, gaining all sorts of horses. He's going to Groom, getting the supplies and the silver, because he wants to have the money to get a province, because if I start greening and then I also have Groom support, then it can be pretty scary to run down the piles. So he's going to get a bunch of money, and his Wishing Wells are going to be able to hit because he knows exactly what's on top of his deck, because there's only going to be 2 cards in his deck. And he's also going to have a lot of overdraw, so he can set this up again. And with 7 coin here, he's stonemasoning, he's going to get Anna, and he doesn't want to take Vander because he wants to leave a bad knight on top for me. So he takes the Storyteller there. I'm going to be able to draw my deck again, but this is still not looking like such a good spot for me, so I kind of have to run down the piles at this point. So my plan is to get pile control with the grooms, threaten to run down the piles before he can really do much, maybe get a province here because I have 8 coin. So I will do that. I'm going to get 2 grooms with my 2 grooms, and then I'll get a province here, hoping to empty the piles before he can catch up in points. So at this point, Honda is going to want to get a bunch more payload than me, and also then get a Snowy Village for the plus buy, so that he can beat my single province. He gets Dame Anna, and he does trash my Groom, which is somewhat unfortunate. I guess I did have a bunch of Grooms, so it wasn't all that unlikely. But he does trash 2 estates, so he's kind of going in it for the long haul here. He is going to get some more money, which might not have been the best move. He probably should have just taken a groom here and then gone for, like, provinces, because I can't exactly empty on my turn. And so he has one more turn to set up after this, and he wants to get the control. Anyway, he's going to stonemason, trashing a silver for a supplies and, like, a cellar, I think. I'm not sure why he does this. Maybe just for the reliability. I guess he didn't really need that silver anyway, or maybe he only got the silver so that he could do that with Stonemason, which is kind of clever, actually. Anyway, he's going to have 2 buys here, so this is looking like a pretty scary turn for him. He's also going to be able to tuck away his excess actions with Way of the Turtle to make sure that he can do this again next turn. That Wishing Well, I'm not sure what it was. I guess maybe he didn't feel safe taking another Groom. I think it was probably pretty safe because I didn't have 8 gains. But anyway, he's going to get a gold in the Storyteller, which is a good move, I think, because he gets the payload. I'm not sure he really needed the Storyteller for reliability. Here I'm going to wish for a horse, or actually, I'm going to see what was in my deck, but I couldn't actually figure it out, so I just guessed horse, but it was Dame Josephine. So anyway, this shuffle is probably fine to trigger just because I've got so many horses and stuff. And also I can Overlord all this as a seller and be just fine. I don't know why the heck I got this Overlord. It's only useful as a seller, so I guess it did have a reasonable amount of flexibility. Maybe it wasn't bad. Anyway, here my plan is to empty the grooms and then go for estates next turn. Now, I do have 2 extra grooms here, so I think at this point I only have, like, 6 grooms or something like that, because I know he trashed one of mine last turn, and so I consider picking up an estate here just in order to lower the piles, except for that is a little risky, because then I might not go off next turn, but anyway, I do decide to do it, and so then at this point it's all about getting reliable, since if I can kick off next turn, I probably win the game. So I played Dame Josephine, and I get to trash his gold, which is extremely lucky. This is basically minus $3 for him. So yeah, definitely very lucky for me, and at this point I'm just going to try to maximize my probability of kicking off next turn. So this could mean a storyteller, but at this point I just littered my deck with a bunch of estates, and so I'm not really sure what I should be getting. I decided to stonemason for 2 sellers, thinking I could discard anything bad that I have. So now he's going to run through his deck. He does gain estates with his Groom, which is a little curious. I think he knows he's going to end the game this turn. But he would need a province, a duchy, and all the rest of the estates in order to win the game. He could tie with province and the estates, which is a little more feasible. And since he's the second player, it would actually be a tie if he tied. And so he's going to think for a little while if he has a win. He's out of Grooms at this point, and so it's going to be tough for him to think of something. But he is going to be able to stonemason for the rest of the estates. And so, not only that, he's going to gain another stonemason with his stonemason. So he's actually going to be able to empty all 3 estates with a single stonemason, which is pretty clever by him. So he doesn't have enough money to get province duchy because I trashed his gold. So he gets a province. I don't know if he would have had enough money anyway. But so that's going to be the game. Definitely very well played by Honda. I definitely got pretty lucky with that gold trash. But hey, I'll take a tie against the number 3 in the world. So that's that game. Alright, you guys, definitely some very important lessons from that game, I would think, about these new Menagerie cards. First of all, Groom, really insane. This is like the second or third game I've played with it now, where it's just been super controlling on the board. It's a really good gainer, I think much better than Ironworks. Gaining a horse is really good. If you're trying to gain treasures payload, then getting 2 silvers is actually pretty strong, especially if you can gain them and play them on the same turn. The main power, though, I think, in this game was to threaten to run down the estates, because basically if I didn't get control of the grooms there, Honda was just going to run away with it because he had a much better deck than me. Also, hostelry, gaining the horses, is rather strong, as I learned this game, thanks to Honda for showing that to me. And so, especially paired with the gaining here, Groom gaining hostelry allowed you to discard many more coppers than you otherwise would use to buy the hostelry. You could discard those coppers to gain extra horses, so it's really good at helping you to draw deck when it would otherwise be a little more difficult to. Though I think this game, both of us had those turns where we were just spinning. We were drawing our deck with the horses and then only gaining a hostelry to gain more horses. So we basically weren't doing very much with our turns. So I think definitely it would be useful to build a deck with like more grooms, and so that you could gain stuff in addition to gaining the horses you need to set up for next turn. So also, like, I think I definitely need to think a little bit more during these games. I was a little too eager about Dame Josephine, and it turned out to be a very big mistake, as I probably should have expected. Also, that Overlord at the beginning may have been a bit questionable. I think that getting a Groom instead, when I was definitely going to be playing the first Overlord as Groom, might have been a little bit more reasonable, just so I didn't end up with the extra debt. Alright, you guys, that's going to be it for this episode of Quest to Top 20. If you enjoy, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Stay tuned for a special channel announcement coming soon, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace!